Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. First off, welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for being here. This is the first of two webinars where we'll be looking at the application to Imagine H2O 2019, which is our 10th anniversary. And so it's going to be a particularly special group of companies who will be treated particularly well. Congratulations on being a part of this cycle. So for those of you who don't know me, which I think is a considerable proportion of you, judging by the attendees, my name is Tom Ferguson. I'm the VP of Programming here at Imagine H2O, which essentially means that I run the accelerator. I'm in charge of the experience that all of the companies that we choose to support in any given year. I'm in charge of the experience that they go through. So essentially, it is all my fault. I am joined today by Kelly Trott, who is a senior director.
Hi all, excited to be reading through applications and getting to know you better.
Yes, indeed. And Kelly will be doing some of the one-to-one support sessions that we'll have later this month. First, sort of a little bit of housekeeping. So we are going to have hopefully a pretty extended Q&A session here and in the next webinar. As I'm talking, please put your questions into the GoToWebinar interface. You should be able to see them right there in your little toolbar that you have. I will get to all of those questions, towards the end. I'm not going to unmute people and get them to say it. We find it much more efficient just to have written questions, which will go through kind of rapid fire. And then the last piece of housekeeping is that this session is being recorded. That recording will be distributed along with the slides. So don't worry too much about taking screenshots or extensive notes. Everything will be with you. So moving on. We are Imagine H2O, and we are a 501c3 non-profit, mission-driven organization, and that mission is to empower people to develop and deploy innovation to solve water challenges globally. We do that in a number of ways, but the most important way we do it is by working with entrepreneurs such as yourself to help you go out into the world and make a difference against seemingly intractable water challenges. And really what we're trying to do is build an impact engine. By doing the work that we do within the accelerator, we then have a direct impact on you as entrepreneurs, not only in terms of customer and investor introductions, but also in terms of the quality of your entrepreneurial decision making. And by empowering you to become better and more connected and more visible entrepreneurs and helping you get out into the market faster, we bring forward the time that you will have the ecosystem impact. So essentially what we're trying to do is whatever A to B is, we just want you to get from A to B faster with us than you can on your own. And we think that it works. So the companies to date have raised just over $340 million and accounted for 30% of early stage investment in the water sector in 2017. That's data according to the Clean Tech Group. And so here are the logos of all the people that we have worked with. So we've had a couple of inquiries as to people, whether they're working in real estate or agriculture or emerging markets, whatever, is there a fit for me? We have worked in depth across all of these areas. If it touches water, by this stage, we have done it. We've had 90 alumni at this stage. We have an 82% survival rate. And over those 9 years, in terms of self-assessed valuation, these companies have grown at about somewhere between a 23 and a 25% CAGR. So a really good bunch of people, but then also the thing that's important for you as entrepreneurs is that behind each of these logos is an entrepreneur who has been there and done that and will be a resource for you in the year that hopefully you will be involved in Imagine H2O. So the 2018 Accelerator was our most intense yet. We had 206 pre-applications, of which we invited 127 to submit in full. And from those 127, we selected 12 companies. Those 12 companies this year have raised about $43 million. And these are those 12 companies. As you can see, they are all over the place. Everyone from Change Water Labs, who have a novel waste and sanitation solution, all the way to water pigeon, which are essentially replacing the meter lids to turn a dumb meter into smart. And then our top company last year, Osmo Systems, was in aquaculture. We've had to build a network in order to be able to support Zach. But absolutely fascinating technology to bring bring aquaculture systems online. And my message to you with this is that if this bunch of idiots can do it, so can you. They were an absolutely fantastic bunch, really, really great. And this is them celebrating at our 2018 gala. There's me down the bottom right, giving the sort of two sideways thumbs to the CEO of eWaterPay. It's a grand old time, and so hopefully you can be part of this photo next year. So, the accelerator, this is what we are here to talk about, well, the application, but we want to go over the nuts and bolts of the accelerator before we do. So really the core idea of what we're trying to do is to create an unfair advantage for the companies that we select. Now, it's not an unfair advantage just for the sake of an unfair advantage. We just want to be able to have these entrepreneurs make as much progress against their given problem as they possibly can over the 10 months that they will work to us. So we work from January to October. It's a little bit lighter in the summer, but we've just really stepped it up again. We've taken 7 companies to WEFTEC, and then we will be doing a set of webinars this month and early next month to take them out into our customer and investor networks. Again, having done that in April and May, just to help them see what progress has been done by our current entrepreneurs. But really, there are 4 verticals of work that we do, slightly concentrated in the temporal areas that you see here, but really they all overlap. So the first thing is capacity development, and by capacity what we mean is essentially the capacity to make better entrepreneurial decisions. So making good entrepreneurial decisions, but also avoiding making bad ones, and we do that through a variety of ways. Principally, we have a 4-stage mentorship program. Over the course of the 10 months, every 2.5 months, you will be introduced to a new mentor of your choosing. We have a list of about 55 that you will choose from. But firstly, in the capacity development, once you are chosen and you come into the accelerator on January the 3rd, the first thing that we will do this year is the Imagine H2O team will really, really work very hard with you on your pitch deck and your overall investor introductions materials. Now, this is partially preparing you for SF Week, and we will get onto that. But mainly because it's a really, really useful vertical to go through all of the elements that need to be thought about within the structure that you are putting around your given technology, while we have you kind of early in the year. Secondly, marketing and visibility. We have a platform from which you can shout louder into the market with us than you can your own. This is both in person and online. So in person, we've just taken these companies to WEFTEC. There's going to be some space for you at the ACE conference, and we've also had, I think, 7 events outside of the accelerator where we've taken companies in some respect to help you get your name out there into the market. And then obviously online, we do extensive work through webinars and other dedicated sessions, and then there's also our kind of extended audience on LinkedIn and Twitter, etc. We're not a Kardashian by any means, but we do have about 10,500 followers. And then customer introductions, we have a network of 65 beta partners. Essentially, they promise to be warm introductions. These are everyone from LA Department of Water and Power to PepsiCo, from CITIC and Viratech to Singapore PUB. Very, very wide-ranging group of companies that are really on the lookout for companies that can solve their problems. And then finally, obviously, investor introductions. None of this happens without money. At last count, we had an investor network of about 268. Of which I think about 60 to 70 are active in some sort of form of the word, and we really do cultivate those relationships, make sure that we are close to them, and we have one-to-one sessions for both customers and investors as well as founders at SF Week in March. But really, so this is what the snapshot of the data for the 2018 companies look like. So they've raised 43 million. That's about to climb to 47 million in pretty short order. 41 investor introductions per company, 72 hours of webinars, 37 deployments likely from IH2O connections in the next 6 months. They've created 19 full-time jobs. But the one that we really like is the rate of improvement. So this is self-assessed, but they've estimated that they've made about 42% faster progress with IH2O than they would have done on their own. And then these are just, three. Gratifyingly, we have a kind of a good library of these now. These are just 3 testimonials from companies who have been a part of it. So if you're here and on the fence, hopefully you can take the word of a fellow founder rather than whoever this British idiot is taking this this webinar. So the meat of this, applying. So on October the 14th, we have our second webinar. We are going to dive into a range of things about the actual writing of the application itself, as well as the judging rubric. We're going to give you an inside look at exactly what the judges look at. And that's going to be about 2.5 weeks before the final deadline, but only 10 days before the early bird deadline, which gives you a discount on the application fee. Now, for the application fee, I am aware, constantly aware, that there is something kind of innately evil about things like pay to pitch and all the rest of it. So the reason we charge an application fee, we run very, very lean. We're only 5 people in a slightly janky co-working space in San Francisco. We keep our overheads very low because we want to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible with it. But we do have our own proprietary software platform because we have built this with you in mind. So as you see in that bottom bullet below, usually when you put in an application to something like this, you never hear from them again. And it's insanely frustrating. I've been on the receiving end of it a couple of times, and it's a huge hassle. We provide comments for all applications from our judging panel. We also provide one-on-one sessions, which, alongside the webinar and the application or overall, is that the way I want you to think about it is that it's kind of irrelevant whether or not you get in or not. What I want you to see this is an opportunity to work with people who specialize in this, to develop the business plan around the product that you have, to develop the way in which you think about your company, regardless of whether or not you get into the accelerator. Obviously, that would be super great to get in. But what we always hear each year is, oh my God, the application's really long and I don't have enough time. And once they've done it, they say, oh, actually, that was a really helpful process to go through. Because you do, you get the feedback not only afterwards, but more importantly beforehand. You have 3-4 hour slots where you can take 15 minutes with me or Kelly or Nimesh from our team, and we can really help you think about the kind of thorny questions that you're dealing with in your businesses, regardless of what happens with the accelerator. So we do ask for an application fee, and so partially it's to make sure that we can provide that software platform that costs us about $4.5 grand a year to maintain. So it's in support of that, but also we've run it without application fees before, and you get a lot of people not taking it seriously. So that's why the application fee is there. If you have any problems with it, please do reach out. I'm totally more than willing to have that discussion, but just want to be totally clear up front. There is a big discount on it, 25% for getting your application in before or on the 24th or earlier. It's midnight of the 24th is the early bird deadline, and then final deadline for applications is November the 1st. And now the November the 20th will be the pre-judging. And just so you know the structure, so because we have so many applications, we can't give them all to our final judges. It would just be too much for the crew of 24 to be able to have as wide a look as they need to be able to have a substantive discussion about them. And so we ask a network of about 110 judges from our network. Now these range everywhere from founders, investors, founders and investors, people who have been active within the water industry for a very, very long time, all people of really serious early stage company expertise, to take a first pass to recommend about 35 that go to our full judging crew, and they will all be providing comments. So the comments are anonymized for good reason. It means that they can be very honest without fear of blowback. And then on December the 16th or thereabouts, we will be notifying you of the final decision. So the one-on-ones, the 15-minute sections of coaching, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. PST on October the 17th, 26th, and 29th. They're filling up reasonably fast. So do get your slot reserved there. If there is sort of wild and crazy demand over and above the times that we've set, we will open up more slots for you. For the first time, we will be definitely conducting interviews this year. We usually do 1 or 2. We're probably going to aim to do about 20 to 30 this year. So they're going to happen between October the 29th and November the 8th. And just another reminder that there are comments for all applications. And I do see we have a couple of questions. We're just going to get to those at the end, but please do keep them coming in. In fact, I'll just take a quick look at the question. Sorry, this is really annoying me. So Michael Gardner has asked how much the application fee is. The early bird is $100, and then the full fee is $125. And if you are a student team, or if you are majority students, you are able to apply for free. But Michael, more than happy to discuss that offline if that would be helpful. And then Carol, where do we find the link for the one-on-one? So you should have seen an email from me about this webinar. So you can go into the in that email in the 4th paragraph, I believe, is a link into that calendar. It is a GCal, a Google Calendar, invitation. If you don't have the Google Suite, then you can just get in touch with me and I'll block off a section for you. We can just use whatever calendar that you use normally. I hope that works, Carol. Madeline, what are the costs across the 10-month program? Now, this is a great question, because we want to make this cost neutral. And as such, if you are part of the final 12, everybody gets at least $2,500 in as a grant. This is to cover travel and lodging specifically for SF Week. But what we find is that usually there is some left over to cover your travel either to ACE, well, ACE is not really us anymore, but to WEFTEC and to the various other elements. So we are absolutely clear that we want Imagine H2O not to be a drain on the finances in any way. So there's the base $2.5 grand for everybody. The top company gets $25,000 and the 2 runners up get $5,000. We will also have a pot of deployment funds that we will be able to put towards you getting pilots into the ground. We're just going through the process with the current companies at the moment. We anticipate deploying about $50,000 in deployment funds this year, hopefully multiples of that next year. But the costs, regardless of the way in which they are afraid, the costs are to come to us in San Francisco from the 18th until the 21st, realistically the 22nd of March, and then if you are eligible for the WEFTEC conference, to travel to that. And then we will also in the summer be holding for the first time IH2O East, which we will combine with a meeting for our beta partners. I think that's the way we're going to do it. But that will be bringing the companies together in New York. And so it's essentially travel and lodging. But if at any point the expenses of Imagine H2O get too much, we are more than willing to have those conversations. We had a company from Ethiopia 2 years ago where we supported them kind of considerably to make sure that they could get to the various events that we needed them to, despite them having essentially zero budget. So thank you very much for those questions and keep them coming in. So the application itself, this is the bit in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe where we open the cupboard and we see the fur jackets and we go inside. So this is, wasn't as smooth as I was hoping it was going to be. So this is the application. This is what you see once your pre-application has come in. Most of you will have seen this already, I hope. But this really shows you really what you're going to be looking at once that pre-application has been cleared up. So the first thing I want to highlight is that please read the overview and terms and conditions to ensure that you are eligible. We've had a couple of applications from people who were founded in 2013. You do need to be founded in 2014 and later. Whenever there is a grey thing with a bullet next to it, please read it. Okay, so same thing up here. I know that a lot of you will see information as sensitive and will want us to just sign NDAs. We do not sign NDAs. They're much more common in Europe and outside of Silicon Valley. So in Silicon Valley, you know, no one who's in the kind of same game that we are signs NDAs, because you spend all of your time sending NDAs to legal to make sure that that they're okay. We don't have a legal department, as I said, and so it's too much of a drain on our time. What we ask instead is that please just only tell us things that you are comfortable with us knowing. And then that obviously extends to the judges. Now, the caveat to that is that the judges, we do our best to make sure that, one, the judges that are assigned to you have expertise in your given area. Secondly, that there are no conflicts of interest. So if you are a sensor company, I'm not going to give you a judge from Hark, for example. Nor am I going to give you a judge who is a founder of a company that may even obliquely be competitive to you. So the judge assignment is done manually. It takes ages and is really annoying, but it does mean that we avoid all those conflicts of interest. If you have any other questions about sensitivity of information or NDAs, please do let me know. But the bottom line is that we do not sign NDAs, so please just make sure the information you provide is non-sensitive. Please be concise. We'll get onto that. And then in terms of stage, you do not need to have something fully developed. You do not have to have a product out there. What we see is that how you think about your future plans and how you think about your product and how you've assessed the need in the market is just as important as what you have actually done. What we've seen over the years is that really what counts is people who are able to express themselves in a way that tells us that they are going to be able to deal with all of the kind of slings and arrows of entrepreneurial fortune that are hurled their way on a daily basis. This is also why we're going to place more onus on the interviews this year. So, like, your mode of thought is really, really, really important. So make sure that that what you put down on paper is thoughtful and thorough. And then we have a little bit about the fee. Just a couple of questions that have come in. So once the application content has been submitted via our website, can the application be revised up until the deadline date? Yes, absolutely. All you need to do is go back, log in and save, and then that will essentially show up as your final application, and you can do that up until 11:59 p.m. on November the 1st. And then on the one-on-ones, the time zone is indeed listed in PST. Thanks, Carol. Thank you, Peter. Much appreciated. So on to the application. We are not based in Independence, Kentucky, but I was just pulling up this so we had this for reference. Sorry, this actually is a typo. We need to change it. You have to be founded after the 1st of January 2014. I do apologize for anybody that has been confused by that. But you have your technology in 10 words or less. Now, what I should say is that when you open this up and you've submitted your pre-application, the details in your pre-application will have been pulled forward into this application. So all you need to do is expand on it. But your technology in 10 words or less, and then we have a couple of things that we want to see there: clients to date, total funding to date, outside financing that you anticipate needing in the next 18 months. We used to break this funding to date out in terms of grants, friends and family, whatever it is. We actually, it really doesn't matter to us. It's just how much you've received. Prior affiliation with incubators, that's fine. Affiliated with the university. If you're a corporate spin out, any patents you own. So the one thing I'm going to pause on, first thing I'm going to pause on is this: do you have or do you anticipate having any IP challenges, e.g., ownership disputes? We've had a couple of examples of companies in the last couple of years that have got pretty deep into this process, and then it's turned out that actually there is a major problem with the transfer of IP. And it's a waste of their time, and it's a waste of ours. All of this, I know that you're competing for a challenge. We want you to be as absolutely straightforward with us as possible, because in this application period is our opportunity to be helpful. So if something is a big, nasty threat to what you're doing, just be honest with us about it, because it's going to come out at some stage anyway. And if it comes out in March of 2019, where we've done, a month and a half or 2.5 months of work with you, and you're about to come to, SF week and the company explodes. That is a position that, one, it's annoying for us because it's basically, it means that all of our effort with you has gone down the proverbial. And then secondly, it's a space that could have been taken by one of your fellow entrepreneurs that's on tougher ground. So, like, if there is an IP challenge, please talk to us about it. If you are great, we'll talk about it in the interview, and we'll gauge what the risks are. But please be upfront about this. So the elevator pitch. Now, what you are trying to do is not necessarily kind of cover absolutely everything that you are doing, but you are looking for you're looking to give the judge no reason to not want to read on. So you're looking to put data in here. You're looking to really encapsulate the story of why this is compelling overall. You're really looking to tell them how far you've got with this. And this can all be done very, very quickly. I advise very short sentences in the elevator pitch. But make sure that you show it to someone that knows nothing about what you're doing, and see whether it makes them want to read on. And ask them for honest feedback, because if they're your mate, they'll probably just say yes. But really what you're looking for is something that's as compelling as the elevator itself, because the elevator has got one hell of a value proposition. Then the investor deck. So we want a 10-slide investor presentation as a PDF document. So your deck's got to be 10 slides or less, excluding the cover slide and the final slide. Please do not include appendices. Now remember, this is an investor presentation. This is not a pitch deck. What we are looking for is something with a little bit more density of information than hopefully what your pitch deck is, which is nice images with very, very few words indeed. Now the corollary of that is that if we see investor decks that are just covered in text, we don't like it. We don't like it, because we see ourselves as essentially seeing the world through pretty much the investor's eyes. And if you see a ton of words where it could be an image, you're just asking me to do work that I don't want to do. What you're looking for is the most efficient possible transfer of information. And usually that is not through bullet points and words. The other thing is that it can get a little bit frustrating, and we try to look past the design of it. But sometimes we see decks that are kind of on the fence. We kind of want to include them, but we're not quite sure. And then sometimes it's just the fact that you haven't bothered to represent your company in as strong a way as you possibly can, both in terms of the logic that what you put down there, but also in terms of the visual structure of what is there. And given that we use it all the time, we know how cheap Upwork is. We know how cheap designers are. And so it usually feels to us a little bit like you kind of couldn't be bothered. That said, we are not here as an art competition. We do not, we're going to try and push that out of our heads as far as possible. But just remember that this is something that may well be considered by the judges. So I'm quickly going to flip back to some questions. How accurate do you need the financial model to be? Bashir will get onto that. This is going to be the last time you ever worry about the financial model, hopefully not only for this, but ever. Daniel Zalante, so can I apply even if I'm still an MBA student graduating in June 2019 and my co-founder will spend the year mainly testing and piloting the technology in Colombia where our lead customer is? Yes. Yes, you can, Daniel. Both Kelly and I are are recovering MBAs, so we know what you're doing. Paul, FYI, some of the preliminary application answers could not be edited after the initial entry. Thank you very much for letting us know. I will investigate that immediately. And I do apologize for any inconvenience caused. Thank you for bringing that up. So the video, there's always a lot of questions about this. We are not here again as a kind of audiovisual competition. We don't care what your production values are. The reason we ask for a video is that it's sort of an interview light. What we are looking for is the quality of your communication as a founder. A part of that is charisma, but part of that is also but most of it is the way in which you articulate what you're doing and how compelling you can make it. Now, I've used the charisma word. I wish it wasn't a factor, but unfortunately it is. And what I mean by charisma is really essentially the ability to sell an idea. Now, the ability to sell an idea, people usually say, oh, yeah, sure, because it's customers. Yeah, no, it's also investors, obviously. But more importantly, a big part of what you're doing as a founder is convincing people to join you on this crazy journey of taking a decade of essentially zero diversification to make something that wasn't there be a thing that is there. That's a big deal. And being able to communicate your enthusiasm, the compelling nature of the product itself, the ideas that you've built around it, the way in which you communicate is a fundamental indicator, we think, of your success as an entrepreneur. And all we want to see is evidence of that. And so some of the best presentations are someone sitting next to an open laptop on a desk being filmed on a smartphone of some description, and it essentially is running through a truncated slide deck, only 3 minutes, that just gives us an idea of how they would present in the room. So if you have something off the shelf that has the usual stock kind of guitar music behind it and flowing rivers and all this kind of stuff, that's fine, but it doesn't tell us much about how you communicate. So just please do bear that in mind. I know that people don't really want to put up stuff on the internet. We cannot accept password stuff. It just gets too complicated. You can post unlinked videos on YouTube or Vimeo, or whatever it might be. Quick question. Gary Marks, how many applicants have you invited to apply beyond the pre-screen? We're going to expand it slightly this year. We think it's going to be about 45. But we'll see. Usually there is the cutoff is not arbitrary. It's usually to do with quality. From what I've seen, I think we've got a really deep bench already this year, and so that's going to be partially there. That's going to be kind of a movable feast, and we'll get more judges in if we need to in the final round. But that's usually cut up. It's usually about the top third, I would say. But 100% of all of the companies will get comments. Okay.
And one thing on the video, this is Kelly now. Don't forget how exciting what you do is. We know as entrepreneurs, it takes a ton of time to go through these applications and you're super busy, but that excitement really shows and really resonates with investors, us, and other people.
Absolutely. No question. And these are the kind of simple things that people don't usually tell you. But the performing element of this is of your kind of entrepreneurial journey, as it were, is actually weirdly important. If it's something that you haven't worked on yet, I would thoroughly recommend working on it, whether it's with a friend, a loved one, taking an improv class, whatever it might be. So thank you, Gary, for the question. And then Take Ogawa, does the video need to include all founders, or could it be just a single person? A single person is absolutely fine. If you want to show us the full team, that's okay. It usually gets a bit awkward if you have kind of a single frame video and you have 3 people sitting there, 2 people who are silent for most of the time. It's a little bit like, oh God, it's Lemon City. I wouldn't want to be where they were. And so just bear that in mind. Single person is fine. And if you want to do something more creative that shows off the product and you're going into different locations, that's also okay. But the bottom line is that we want to get an idea of how you are as a communicator. All right, so usually people would skip straight into your solution description. We do not. We are the fundamental, what I will say about this application is that the application is an absolute reflection of how we think the logic of building a startup in water needs to flow. So we really start with the problem, despite the fact it has a lower character count than the solution description, because the intensity of the problem is absolutely key to the outcomes later in the startup's life. When we ask what problem are you solving and for whom, we are really asking you who is miserable and why. We want you to identify someone who is really having just an awful time. And we want you to show us how you know that. So we really want you to have had customer interviews. If the answer is 0 at the moment, you got 3 weeks. We want to see primary data. What are the results? And then why did you choose this problem to work on? Hopefully what we're going to see is some overlap between either personal experience of the problem or something professional that you were working on that basically de-risks in our mind that there really is a problem there to be worked on. And then on the solution description, obviously we give you a bit more room here. So we just want you to describe the product or service, but we want you to make sure that you make the link absolutely to the problem that you describe in the previous section. We want you to make sure that you describe your product's advantages over existing product solutions. Hopefully what we're aiming for is 10x better or 10x cheaper. We realize in water that's actually kind of difficult, but make sure that you're very clear about the advantages. The validation. Now you can have validation at the bench scale. You can also just describe your path to validation. We do not want to penalize early stage companies, but this is where this idea of how you think about it is just as important as what you have actually built. And please feel free to include a demo, the URL. Again, do not password protect. If it's password protected, we will not watch it. Okay, and now going on to beachhead market. Now, we're going to go over this a little bit when we get back to the slide deck, but we are looking for a target segment. And we define a target segment as a subset of customers that talk to each other, share a deep pain point, and are willing to pay for an imperfect solution now to solve at least some of that pain. There is a lot in that sentence, but when you're looking at the beachhead market that you're looking at, make sure you read that definition and see whether you are narrow enough. If you are saying homeowners in North America, it's very unlikely that is as targeted a subset as we need you to zero in on. The reason that we're looking for a segment is about focus. So you are early stage companies, you have a lot going on, not very many people, not very much money, and only sort of 24 usable hours in every day. Well, hopefully only about 17 usable hours in every day, but whatever. I don't know how much you sleep. And so given that you have essentially necessarily limited resources, the closer you focus on a customer segment, the more likely you are to build something that is going to knock their socks off. And it's only if you knock their socks off that they are going to buy from you. And having that kind of element of virality within it, the subset of customers that talk to each other, then the quicker your product can spread through that segment. We also want to make sure that you validated it. Again, hopefully that's primary data. We want to make sure that they have both the willingness and the ability so that they can afford to pay for the solution. So both the willingness and ability to pay is there. And then the evidence you have for that, obviously we encourage primary data very strongly. The last thing there is the alignment of the user being the person who can cut the check for it. Very, very, very useful in terms of your early sales. So you have your problem, your solution, your market, and then actually how you're going to get the solution into the market to solve that problem. Key influencers in making a sale happen. What are the elements of your value proposition to them? Tell us the argument that you're going to make to them. How are you going to get to them? Briefly define your channel strategy and justify your choice with data. Now, most of you are going to be going direct, or at least hopefully most of you are going to be going direct initially. That is totally fine. And I hope that is mainly what we're going to see. If you are not going direct, please tell us who, where, and why, and what that's going to do to your activities as a company, but also your economics. How much do you need to share with them? And then finally, we are in water. The sales cycle is long. Most accelerators would freak out about the sales cycle in water. We do not. We don't care if the sales cycle is 24 or 36 months. What we need to know is how you are going to manage that, because if you can make the sale over 36 months, that means the barrier to entry are absolutely enormous, and that if you've got a kind of a service element to your business, then you're going to be able to generate serious revenues for kind of a long time. What you need to do is essentially manage your cash burn over that incredibly long sales cycle. So that is what we want to see. So we had one question about the economics. In general, we only care about your pricing, the ROI for the end users, because that's really all about how easy it is for these people to say yes. And what we're looking for is for you to think about your customer acquisition cost over time. Because we think that unit economics in water companies is very, very important indeed. So I'm just going to show you the financial model summary. You will then see how much we care about the financial model. What I always say about financial models is that the only thing you know about them is that they're going to be a lie, whether it's over or under. None of it's going to come true. The reason we ask for the pricing and the ROI and the customer acquisition cost is that if the economics don't work out on the back of a napkin, they don't get better in a fancy spreadsheet. A lot of you are going to have really good financial models, and they are fine and they're useful for planning purposes. But we don't not care, but we kind of just want to see where directionally your margins are going to be, where you see your revenue ramp, and then your pricing and your ROI, as well as the annual return or related the annual return for the customer. So this over here is going to self-populate as you add the revenue. The last thing I will say is that there are very few points to be won on this. There are points to be lost. If you are telling me that you're going to have a Facebook-esque valuation within 5 years, that might be true, and I hope it is true. But in general, there are more than enough headwinds in water to make it more likely that you are just being unrealistic. And being unrealistic and telling a story that is unrealistic is a very dangerous place to be as an entrepreneur. It's great to be optimistic, but being unrealistic is difficult because it means that you haven't validated assumptions that are going to be coming down the road at you. So watch out for crazy hockey stick. Some hockey stick is fine. Revenue ramps, obviously, just in terms of the dynamics of the actual, the building of a company, you are going to have a revenue ramp. But if you're telling me that on an EBITDA multiple, you're going to be a $4 to $5 billion business in 2022, then I hope to hell that you are right. But we think it's pretty unlikely. So we just don't want to have people who are being unrealistic. So please look at the title here that we ask you to do, and then upload it there. It's all very easy. So in terms of impact, we are a mission-driven organization. I've gone through the mission. We want you to describe what your impact is going to be on sustainable water resource management. We also want you to link to Sustainable Development Goal 6. Now, this is partly for us because a lot of our stakeholders are interested in SDG 6, but it's also for you. We think that all water businesses are essentially impact businesses. And so the more that you can make the link in your own mind towards sustainable water resource management and sustainable and actually the SDG 6, I'm just about to go off to Europe in about a week to talk to a bunch of sort of fancy people about the SDG things. This is really important stuff, and it's where a lot of money is going to be coming from. And so the more that you can align with it, the higher your likelihood of being able to get access to concessionary capital, hopefully non-dilutive, so you can build your company with money that doesn't dilute your ownership stake. Doesn't that sound great? And then scaling that impact over the next 5 years beyond your initial target customer. It can sometimes be a bit difficult for people who are not used to articulating their company in these terms. If you have any problems with the impact, please do let us know. The risk assessment. This is a bit of a weird one. This doesn't usually come up on applications, and people are like, "Why? But why? I don't want to talk about my risks." There is no such thing as too big a risk. It's a risky thing that you are doing. What we want to make sure is that you are identifying the key risks and at least are paying lip service to managing those risks. There is nothing wrong with risks. What most dangerous thing to you in your entrepreneurial journey is the risk that you have not identified and crucially have not substantiated the way in which you're going to be able to deal with it. We see entrepreneurship as a risk minimization exercise, not just charging blindly into piles of risk, which is usually what people think about the entrepreneur. We think the entrepreneur is someone who is actually quite risk averse and is all about risk minimization. So please identify 2 to 4 key risks with a kind of a 1-sentence plan to mitigate them. Anywhere between 2 and 4, we've given you ideas of potential issues to consider. Just be aware that if we can identify bigger risks than you have in here, it's going to count against you. With any business plan that we get given, you can always identify about 12 to 15 risks everywhere from the customer to the product to the market to the channel to the acceptance to the regulations to whatever it will be. Right? Make sure that you're really focusing in on the doozies and then looking at your mitigation plan. Obviously, none of this happens without the team. So please briefly describe who they are. Don't spend too much time, usually kind of keywords, whether it's educational institutions or more importantly, I would say what their roles were in previous areas. What we're looking for is the right group of people to solve this problem. Quick couple of words on gaps in the leadership team and where you're going to be focusing your energies in terms of recruiting needs in the next 18 months, and then any key advisors that you have and their areas of expertise. And then finally, and this is not going into the actual judgment of it, but this is to get you thinking about the policy side of things. Usually water companies can be really helped by improving the policy around what they are doing. Please let us know what they are. We have a policy program and we are going to take all of this input and get it done. So application fee is showing $100 because we are before October the 25th, actually. Make sure you've done the accelerator overview and the terms and conditions, submit. And if you want to come back, you literally just come in, change what you need to do, hit save, and that will be essentially the resubmission. Okay, so that is the application. So a few questions before we go back to our slide deck. Do you have visibility of the work in progress drafts? Yes, we do, but in the back end of of the tool itself. So essentially in CSV format. We can only see it once you have submitted it. So if you're going to be doing a one-on-one session with us, I suggest that you submit it. Essentially, get everything done, get the application fee in, submit it, and so we can see it within the platform. If you don't want to do that for whatever reason, you want to force me to go and have a look at an Excel sheet, then you are a sadist, 1, and 2, no, I don't care, whatever you want to do. But if you submit it, we can see it, and so for the one-to-ones, that's actually really useful. Hi, Tom Becky. Oh, look, yeah, it looks like you came back. Hi, T. So established as a not-for-profit in 2011. So we can't work with not-for-profits. That's a decision we took a while ago, just in terms of our own focus. And you do have to be founded after 2014, January the 1st, 2014. You can reincorporate as a for-profit. We have at least a couple of companies doing that this year. You can do that as long as it's before January the 1st, 2019. But if that's the case, then yeah, it does deem you ineligible. Sorry about that.
And one follow-up on that. That's a big decision to make, so don't just make that decision lightly. We're not pushing either way.
Yes.
That's in your hands.
No, absolutely. You need to do what works for you. Just because we don't work with nonprofits, it doesn't mean that nonprofits aren't amazing. We are ourselves a nonprofit. Yeah. So we are big fans. So this question from Tom Becky is about patents. Essentially, the question is, would any investor be interested in this scenario? So Tom hasn't got so it looks like it's not patentable, this product, but would any investor be interested in this scenario? Short answer is yes. You don't necessarily need to have patents. Some people choose not to because they prefer to be operating under trade secrets. This is particularly the case with software. We ask for patents and any IP to be listed because it's just an easy way for you to essentially draw an initial kind of outline of what your competitive moat is going to be, but we do not require patents. Joseph, when I open the Excel spreadsheet, it shut my computer down. Try that again. Hopefully that won't happen again. So Suhail, all questions are focused on one product. If there is more than one product, is the expectation to describe one or all? This is a good question. A few of you will have multiple products within your company. Please do focus the application on one product. If you want to give us a couple of sentences on the overall product suite in terms of in the solution description, I would encourage you to put it in there because it has the highest character count, then please do. But all of this is designed to essentially get the business plan out of you for a single product. So please do focus on that one product. Leo Williams, so were comments available for the Urban Drinking Water Challenge application as well? For those of you who had Urban Drinking Water Challenge applications, we did have some comments on there, and Leo, we can check with you. Sorry if I mispronounced your first name, I do apologize, especially given that we're from the same island. Will we get a digital copy that we can download of our application? Yes, you will, but it will be unfortunately in a CSV file. The good thing about that is that it's easily translatable into a Word document if that's what you would like. Tony, what topics will you cover in the next webinar? We are going to cover the judging rubric as well as going into a bit more of a deep dive on how to answer the questions properly, really things that are more on the stylistic elements, as well as looking into how to think about the key elements of your business that we're just going to touch on in the last kind of 5 minutes. So what is the status of technology collaborators in this platform? Bashir, I'm not sure I understand the question, so I don't want to engage with it too much now, so please do email me offline. So Gary has asked a key question: does equity ask for does IH2O ask for an equity stake in the companies? No, we do not ask for an equity stake in our companies. The opportunity cost of that decision taken in 2009 is now becoming kind of abundantly and gratifyingly large, but we don't plan to change that anytime soon, certainly not for the 2019 round. If anything changes, we will let you know. And we also do not participate in investment rounds, but we know a lot of people who will. And can you publish a prior successful application as an example? Good idea. Yes, I will ask one founder in particular whether we can do that. Hopefully we can give you a couple of examples. And then from Ben Kirk, do you have any preference in bringing on B2B or B2C businesses? Historically, we've had a little bit of a focus on the B2B side of things. My personal thesis is that actually there are some really interesting things happening in the B2C side of things. We have a burgeoning set of relationships that can be of use to B2C companies, but everything is judged on its own commercial merits. Okay, so whether it's B2B or B2C, we are agnostic. It's really the best player winning. Thank you very much for the great question, Ben. Dan Kuehler, say you have a great company technology, great ideas, people and technology, but what kind of fit are you looking for Imagine H2O ourselves? Where have you found yourself most effective? Water tech spans a lot of areas. We know water tech spans a lot of areas, both geographically and within the market itself, but refer back to the slide that we had up previously. We have been all over the show. Okay, so we can be helpful across this area. We started kind of in really the utility side of things, but we're very strong in the commercial and industrial side of place. We have an excellent network in ag, getting much better now in real estate because we have had companies in the last few years. Emerging markets, we've been working with World Bank, IFC, European Investment Bank, a whole bunch of different people. And then consumer, we are a little bit lighter on, but certainly we can be of use across the areas. Dan, if you want to discuss further, then please let me know. Now, I want to make sure that I respect all of your time, and so I'm just going to quickly jump onto the advice side of things. So these are the areas that we think need to be kind of really core in your thinking about building a successful water startup. And we're not going to go into each of those. But really, we want to make sure that you as entrepreneurs are thinking about the team, the problem, the primary data that you are gathering in order to substantiate your assumptions. We want you to think about your beachhead market. We want you to think about iterating on your solution, not being dogmatic about a single solution. We want you to think about financing, and then we want you to think about the operations. And in terms of operations, we want you to be thinking about the whole solution. It's never just a product. It is your ability to install that product. It is the ability to provide customer support, guarantees, insurance, whatever it might be. And so what we really want you to do is do the core things well. We want you to really nail down your problem and your solution in relation to that problem. We want to make sure that you have your customer identification down, that you really know who and why you are going after. And that's where the primary data comes in. Your go-to-market strategy. You've got your solution and your problem. How are you going to get it into the hands of the people that you have that problem? Your competitive positioning. When you go back to your application, make sure that your competitive positioning comes through wherever it might be. That could be in the economics. It's likely to be in the solution description in particular, potentially in the go-to-market, but make sure it comes through how you are wildly better than all of your competitors. ROI really needs to be obvious. We really like unit economics. Some of you may have ad-supported kind of build it and they will come models. I hope you do, because it'd be interesting for us to see, but we think unit economics is really useful. And then finally, your communication. We will go into that communication element in the next webinar. Note the absence of hockey sticks. You might like rapid revenue growth is fine. What we want is to see all the bits of the puzzle that we think are going to be the best indicator that rapid revenue growth is likely. Just because you tell us in a spreadsheet does not mean that we are going to believe you. We are much more interested in all of the components that will come together to drive that revenue growth. Just one quick word on segmentation. It's totally crucial, because you're starting with the pioneers. This is what you need to be doing, but you're also looking at the early, but also you need to understand who your next early adopters are going to be, and are they going to be able to give you enough cash to get you across this period where you have maximum cash burn, highest expectations from your customers to get into this mass portion of the market. You need to identify these people, and this means really identifying what segments are there and which one, maybe two segments that you are looking after. We take this beachhead market thing very, very, very seriously. And you really are just trying to show us that you think clearly enough to make this transition. So find the segments. Just quickly, just think, write clearly, keep it simple. Make it easy as you can for the judges. Bullet points are your friend. Again, we're going to go through this on the next webinar. Read and reread, draft offline, save often. Just like anything else, we are not immune from techno disaster. So make sure that you have something drafted offline. Character counts include spaces, I'm afraid. And make sure that if you're drafting offline, you keep that. Production values in the video do not matter. The investor deck is not a pitch deck. Think about your information density, but without having reams of text. Okay, it's something difficult to tread sometimes. But if you want an example, we can give you one. Yeah, watch out for the unicorn valuation in 5 years. Hopefully you can, but we are just a little bit dogmatic. Well, you can say you can have a 1.5 billion valuation. You just need to justify it. Get it in early. We think that's a great idea, because we're going to start evaluating them slightly earlier for the ones that have submitted and finalized it. And then just a reminder, judging feedback for everyone. If you have traction, make sure the voice of the customer is heard. If you have a quote from a customer that says your product is the best thing since sliced bread, include it on the application. It's amazing how many people don't. And then use us. Look at our blog, the one-to-one sessions, email me, and obviously join webinar 2. So the last few questions. Say you have a great company, technology, great ideas, people, and technology. Oh, sorry, we've already done that one. Paul West, at which point will VC partners be introduced and potential investment be available for the selected companies? If you are raising a round when we select you in early December, in mid-December, then you will get those investor introductions if we think that you're ready. On, say we select you on the 16th, you will get them on the 17th. We'll start sending you around on the 17th. We have no interest in waiting for a specific time of year to get you the introductions. It's about when you want them and when you are ready. We have had multiple companies this year saying, I don't want any investor introductions because we're living off our own sales, and so just kind of leave me alone on the investor side of things, and we'll concentrate on the other side of it. We love that. But all of our partners, whether they are customers or investors, if they're a fit with what you're doing, you will get those introductions as early as you possibly can. So that's us on the question side of things. If there are any more offline, do let me know, but hopefully we can just save them and cover them in webinar 2. Thank you all so much for your engagement. And so we're going to leave you just with our Columbo moment. I'm probably dating myself a bit, but just one more thing. Like anything else within entrepreneurship, getting to your goal, which hopefully is selection to Imagine H2O, is iterating your way there. And so the build is your initial writing. Test is working with us, your companies, or whoever it is. There are lots of possibilities for support on this to test what you've written, and then learn from those tests and then refine, and then go through the process over and over and over again. It's about iterating your way there. And so, if you're kind of hurling this in at the last minute and it's all a bit of a mess, it's unlikely to do as well as people who have really taken the time to think. But what I want you to take away from this is that applying to Imagine H2O should not be sunk cost in terms of time in any way, shape, or form. I know that you want to be out there, building and selling. You're entrepreneurs. That's totally fair enough. But we think this is a really important opportunity for all of you to take a bit of a step back to think like, okay, how am I really thinking about this? Like, regardless of the technology that I have built, how am I really thinking about my approach to market, my selection of a customer? Because this is absolutely invaluable brain work to go through. And we've refined this application to take away anything extraneous. And so these are really the core questions that we think you as entrepreneurs should be going through. And so I hope that by the time that we finish, I hope that by the time that we finish this process with you, that will have been additive in your entrepreneurial life, regardless of whether or not you get selected. And the last thing that I will say is that we always have a very deep bench, and we've worked with, I would say, 8 to 12 companies this year that are not part of our final accelerator, but because they engaged in this process, we got to know them, we like them, we've given them probably 3 to 4 opportunities to exhibit through Imagine H2O. A couple of opportunities to get in front of people like the World Bank. Just the more that we get to know you and get to understand your technology and the way in which you think about your company, even if you're not accepted, there is value out there from being part of Imagine H2O. So I've gone slightly over time. Thank you all so much for your patience. I hope this has been helpful. I will be distributing the slides and the recording, and hopefully I will speak to most, if not all of you, on Monday. Do sign up at the link that I sent through last week and yesterday. Scroll down in that email. I'll send a reminder on Sunday evening, and hopefully speak to you all then. Thank you so much for your attention, and really looking forward to all of the awesome applications that you're going to be putting in. Thanks very much indeed, and speak to you soon. Bye bye.